Welcome. As you're logging in, your cameras and your microphones have been set to remain off by Andersons. If you would like to turn your cameras on tonight, our authors are down for cameras being on, but ask that you keep your microphones off, please. I'm Carrie, and I'm on the Andersons events team. Before we get started, I am just wanted to take a moment to welcome you to our event with Karen Alpert in conversation with Leslie Bruce. Thank you all for being here tonight so much. The Andersons family, we have been selling books since 1875 independently, believe it or not. And so we've made it through some stuff before, and we're going to make it through this tough time too. But we just wanted to let you know that your support of this event by attending tonight and your purchase of the books through us allows us to remain in business. And we are just really, truly grateful for it. We take it personally, every single person that shows up to one of these. Thank you so much. A couple things about tonight. As mentioned previously, your microphones are set to be off for the duration of the event. You can turn your cameras on if you'd like. If you'd like to ask questions, we will have a Q&A session at the end, which is really fun. So please submit questions through the chat function here on Zoom. I will collect them all, and then I'll pop back on at the end and I'll feed them to our authors and they can answer those for you guys. We'll get through as many as we can before we have to end our time. One more quick thing, if you ordered a book for tonight, please know that you will receive an email when your books are either ready to pick up or they've shipped out, depending on which option you chose when you got your ticket. This can sometimes take us a day or two because we have actual human beings who pack our books. So it does take sometimes a day or two if you don't hear from us right away. If you've not ordered your book for tonight or would like to have another signed copy, Mother's Day is on Sunday and signed books do make really great, thoughtful gifts. I will be putting info on how you can do that in the chat as well. But now onto the good stuff. We are here tonight, of course, with Karen Alpert, who started her blog, Baby Sideburns, as an antidote to the perfect seeming families we all love to loathe on social media. Her writing about the messy, unpredictable side of parenting really struck a chord, and her first book, I Heart My Little A-Holes, hit the bestseller list. She also wrote I Want My Epidural Back, and her latest release, of course, that we're here to celebrate tonight, Mamas Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be A-Holes. She lives here in Chicago with her husband and 2 kids. She is in conversation tonight with Leslie Bruce, who is a #1 New York Times bestselling co-author and award-winning entertainment journalist. Her newest book, You Are an Effing Awesome Mom, is her newest book. She launched Unpacified with the goal of connecting with women as they fumble through motherhood and to offer support, community, and laughter so that no new mom ever has to feel alone. I love that so much. Leslie lives in Laguna Beach, California with her husband, her children, and 2 overweight rescue dogs that I hope we get to see a picture of maybe. And with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to them, and I am going to be right here if anyone needs me. See you guys later.
Thanks, Carrie. Hi, guys. First of all, thank you so much for joining tonight. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And I'm so sad we can't be at Anderson's, but the bonus part is the silver lining is that a lot of people get to join us that are in faraway places. So we don't usually get to do that for these release parties. But I want to say also thank you so much for getting the book and hopefully reading it and hopefully loving it. I really, really appreciate it. If you are local, by all means, stop by Anderson's because they're the most amazing bookstore. And I am also so excited to have Leslie Bruce here. If you haven't read her stuff, her book is fabulous. And it will also make you feel really good. We are writers that try and make other parents feel better about themselves. And I will pass it to her. We're going to have an awesome night. I hope you guys have fun. I hope that some of you might even have a cocktail. I've got my margarita here ready to go. Hopefully I won't drink this whole thing or I will be slurring a lot.
Or maybe you should. You have a lot to celebrate, right?
You never know, guys.
Well, let me begin also by thanking you, Karen, and thanking Andersons for having me. I'm selfishly a little bit excited that you guys get to do this virtually. So, because I get to come in and be here from California. And this is really an incredible treat for me. And while I now reside on the West Coast, I am a Chicago native, and the city holds a very special place in my heart. And I also have to fangirl for a second. I'm going to embarrass you for a second, Karen, because I have been a fan of hers for a very, very long time. And it was her first book, I Heart My Little A-Holes, that really saved me on my motherhood journey. She was one of the moms on, I feel, like on the front lines of what now is this, raw, honest motherhood movement. She was doing it before people were really doing it. And it's become more common now, but you were out there talking about the struggles of motherhood before it was like trendy, and doing it with sincerity. And I think it was in large part to your bravery that I was able to kind of survive my early motherhood and encouraged me to write about my own journey. So I'm so grateful to you for that. So thank you. And I guess my first question is, since you've come so far since writing your first book and starting your blog, what has been the most surprising thing that you've learned about motherhood through this journey?
Wow. I mean, I've learned a lot from the start of the blog. The first thing I really learned myself, and I think a lot of you guys were learning it too, which is crazy, is that we are all kind of going through the same thing. And you were watching social media and you were seeing everybody, like, their lives looked so perfect. And I feel like when we pulled back that curtain and showed what was really going on in our houses, all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, everything I'm writing, other mothers are nodding their heads and they're going through exactly the same thing, which was a crazy realization. I had friends, but I guess we just didn't delve that deep and talk about our emotions that deeply. I mean, we're sitting in gymboree on the floor. It wasn't like a whole kumbaya session. So that was one thing I learned from the blog. And I think coming a long ways in parenting, the biggest thing I learned was, like, my sacrifices have changed a lot as the kids have gotten older. I Heart My Little A-Holes was a lot about the sacrifices I was making as a new mom. Like, I wasn't showering as much. Like, my house looked like a bomb hit it. Like, my boobs felt like alligators were clamped onto them. Like, those were the sacrifices I was making. Now the sacrifice that I seem to be making now that the kids are getting older, especially Zoe, who's in 6th grade and junior high, is that I feel like I'm sacrificing my emotions a lot more. And my emotions are so wrapped up in whatever her emotions are of that day. And that, they say that about mothers, that, like, you're only as happy as your most unhappy child. And you're also as happy as your happy child. So I feel like I wait until Zoe gets in the car at the end of the day to kind of decide how I'm feeling. And that's a really, really bad place to be, but I think it's probably the way most mothers are. So wow. That huge realization, like, your sacrifices change. I can shower now, though. That's a bonus.
You can shower, but you still might be crying in that shower.
I can shower. My fingernails don't smell like poop anymore. So, like, there's progress in some areas.
So in the book, you talk a lot about, and on your blog too, you talk a lot about fostering self-confidence in our kids, and whether it's to sort of resolve a playground conflict, or it's allowing Zoe to choose what she's going to wear to school and be really, supportive of that. Talk a little bit about that importance and of letting kids handle things for themselves, and how you've seen it play out in your own house.
Yeah, that's hard. I mean, I'm a micromanager. I am not like that laid back mom that just lets their kids run out. Like, I wish I was. I think it's a really nice way to be, but I'm not that mom. But I have to consciously let them figure it out on their own a lot of the time. And I feel like, believe me, when you see Zoe in when you used to see Zoe in like these crazy outfits that she would come down in, there was a lot of me that wanted to say, like, maybe we should change that outfit before we go out in public. Even now in junior high, sometimes I'm like, really, a scrunchie and a headband at the same time? but I really try my hardest to step back and let her do what she feels self-confident doing, because when I tell her that that's the wrong thing, or that you should change that, I feel like it chips away at her self-confidence a little bit. It's the same with, at recess when Holden's outside and he's dealing with somebody who's not the nicest kid. I mean, believe me, I would love to walk onto that playground and throttle some of those children. Not physically, but like, I'm feeling it. But I know that the best thing I can do for him is not do that and teach him how to handle it. I always say, like, you can take a bully away. It's kind of like you can teach a man to fish, but you can give a man a fish and he'll eat that one fish. If you teach him how to fish, he'll fish for a lifetime. I feel like a bully is the same thing. You take the bully away, and it's going to take the bully away. But if you teach a kid how to deal with the bullies, they will have that with them, that skill for the rest of their lives. And I know, like we know as adults, like there are bullies like throughout your whole entire life. It's not just on the playground and recess, and it's not just in junior high when kids start getting a little meaner. It just goes on and on. You'll have bosses that are bullies, and like you have to teach your kids how to deal with that themselves, because you're not going to be there for them all the time. You know, you might be able to arrange their play dates now, but one day they're going to be in a fraternity house and they have to learn how to fend for themselves, or they're going to be in college, or they're going to be at their first job, and they have to know how to deal with a-holes without you standing there dealing with the a-holes for them.
Right.
So,
right.
But there's things that I wish, like, I'm sorry. Sometimes I wonder whether I've given Zoe too much self-confidence. I don't know if that's a weird thing to say, but like they have to have like self-awareness too. So I've always been worried about like, is she going to dress like this crazy person that like sits on the subway and like no one wants to sit next to her kind of thing. But I feel like she's kind of naturally figured that out a little bit herself, and it's just kind of worked. So
right.
Yeah.
It
Okay,
sounds it sounds like you just, you know, it's having faith that what you're doing, you know, that they're going to make all of these, they're going to do this trial and error as they're in the safety of their home and with you and as their kids, and they're going to figure out kind of who they are and what makes them happy, whether it's their outfits or how they choose to, you know, deal with that bully. They're in your safety nest still. So they're having the security of figuring it out. And the hope is that when she does start riding the subway, you know, maybe she won't be, you know, doing the scrunchy headband thing, which I am doing myself right now.
But you can pull it off.
I think Zoe was on trend. Thank you. But sort of in that same vein, I feel like we live in this era of like conscious parenting, right? Like as I mentioned, I'm from Chicago. I grew up with very strict South Side Midwestern parents, and I got yelled at on occasion. And I mean, I'm still very close with my mother, right? And I had a very strict mother. But I think that parents today, we have this culture of them practicing so much restraint and composure at all times. But in your book, you make an argument as to why it's okay on occasion to yell at your kids. And I thought that was so fascinating and so refreshing. So tell us about your rationale.
Yeah, I mean, like, and by occasionally, that might be once a day, or it might be once a week, or it might be once a month. It kind of depends on how the kids are doing. I mean, I like you, Leslie, I think the times have changed a lot. Like, I remember getting spanked once in a while when I was a kid. It wasn't a whooping. It wasn't like they took me into the room and like purposely whooped me. But if I really acted out, there might be a scoop of the arm and a whack under the tush, just to like let me know that it was business. I know that now we know that that's not the right thing to do, but times change. I do feel like times maybe have changed a little too much, and we sometimes are a little too soft with our children. I mean, I say that, and then I think I don't want to say that parents that are doing the wrong thing, because whatever works for your household kind of thing. But in my household, what works for me is when I tell my kid to do something 4 times and they don't do it, my voice is going to raise and they're going to know that I mean business. And I've gotten to this point where now I have this like warning. It's a little bit different now that they're getting a little bit older and they understand things. And I literally say to them, I'm about to go ballistic on you. Or sometimes I use a curse word. Sometimes I say, I'm going to lose my SHIT on you. And it's a warning. And it's like, if you don't stop what you're doing right now, shit's about to go down. So, and then I'll raise my voice a lot and I will yell. And then they really know I mean business. I feel like my passions are high, my lows can be low. That is just how our household operates, and it seems to work. I know there are parents out there like that I envy them because they just talk with a firm voice to their children and it works. That never worked in our house. So I yell, and I don't think there's anything really wrong with yelling. I mean, you don't want to verbally abuse your children, but yelling at them to let them know that you mean business. I think there are worse things in this world, like raising an a-hole. Like, I don't want to raise an a-hole. Right. So yeah, right. We're a little strict.
I agree with you because I do think that, you know, every so often, yelling, and again, it could be once a day, but I think that sometimes your kids need to know, or my kids, we were talking about this before the chat here. I have such a passionate daughter that sometimes I just need to get bigger than her. And sometimes they need to know that there are hard no's in life. And, sometimes and as parents, we're not perfect. And sometimes I lose my temper in a way that isn't the most flattering. But I think that from where I stand, she knows, they have a huge amount of love in this household. So sometimes I think having her know that I'm not perfect and that I will come and apologize if I do go beyond, but that also if there is these hard no's, that raising your voice isn't this horrible thing all the time. So I felt very affirmed when I read that. So thank you.
Good. And I think apologizing is moms apologizing to their kids because they did something wrong. That is huge. I mean, that's a big thing. Like, A, you're teaching your kids that you're human and you make mistakes, and that's okay. And B, you're teaching them how to apologize. Like, how many a-holes do you know, like grown-up a-holes do you know that cannot apologize? They cannot admit that they did something wrong. You are modeling that behavior for your children, and you are showing them, I messed up. You know what? And I'm fessing up to it right now, and I'm really sorry. And next time I'm going to try and do better. So that's how our household operates.
Right. An interesting thing that I read also in your book, that I'm taking all of these nuggets and I'm like, I need a pin board, because I need to, as my children get older and they start to inch into Zoe and Holden's days, I need to have them on these vision boards so I can remember how to do this accurately. But you place this importance out in investing in memories over things.
Yeah.
And you use the example of having this like broken oven for months, but still deciding to spend money on this like elaborate Disney vacation. Tell us a little bit about how did you come to make that choice?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we had a broken oven. Our minivan door like wasn't closing at the time. Like our windows in our house desperately need to be replaced. Like there are things like the hardcore things that we could put our money to, but we spent our money on a Disney vacation and it was huge. I mean, like we stayed at the Disney resort. We got I don't remember what it's called, the dessert party where you get the fireworks and the reserved spot on the lawn. Like we went all out, and we did the Disney cruise too. That was another all out vacation. And we've done a lot. People know, like people are always like, you're always on vacation. I'm like, yeah, because that's what we put our money to. Like we don't always put our money to the things that we probably need, but we have food on the table. Don't get me wrong. I have food on the table, clothes on our backs, but we tend to put our money towards experiences over things. Because I think when our kids get older, like think about it. If somebody asks you what your favorite childhood memory was, like, I'm not going to say the Cutlass Cruiser station wagon. And even if we had something nicer than that, even if we had like a Porsche, I don't think I would say a Porsche was my favorite memory from childhood. So my favorite memory from childhood, I mean, gosh, I can't even think of what it is off the top of my head. Oh, there was a moment that my dad lit the fireplace and the gas was on too long and the fire jumped out at him and it singed his eyebrows. And I was like, are you okay? And he looked at me and he's like, I'm okay. But his eyebrows were all like, just like those are the kinds of random things that you remember when you get older and that you like, you keep in your heart. Or lying on the couch with your family and watching TV, or just all sorts of like warm and fuzzy memories that you have. Those are the things that your kids are going to take away. And I hope that, like, my son might not remember the fireworks because he was too young to remember it, but I guarantee you he remembers like the millions of times that I held him while we were watching fireworks, or the love, and he can see the pictures of us like having this amazing time together. And that just, to me, that means so much more than any like material possession. Material possessions go away. Like memories do not. And even if your kid doesn't remember, like Carrie from Anderson's and I were talking about this before this call, like even if your kid doesn't remember that trip to Disney World, it was not a waste of money. It was money well spent, because the love, the memory, the joy, the bond they took away from that, I think is so huge and so much bigger than any like, doll that you could have bought them, or playhouse or car or whatever it may be.
Right. I think if one thing that I've learned sort of through the pandemic and being at home for so long, was how much I missed travel, because doing things, going for experiences, doing things with your family, it forces you to bond. It forces you to be really present with each other and make those memories. To your point, when you are at home, there's always laundry to be done. There's always a garage that needs to be cleaned. There's always dishes that need to be put away. But when you're in a hotel room and all watching, there's nothing else to do but just to be together and to create those memories. And of the strongest memories I have of childhood were going to Disney World with my I couldn't tell you the name of my third grade teacher, and I don't even remember what a day of that looked like, but I can tell you everything about that spring break. So it's a nice reminder, especially, when you were talking about this culture of this Instagram and seeing this culture of these playrooms kids have with all these Montessori toys and this and blah, blah, blah. And it can feel such a pressure, as a reminder that doesn't really matter.
It doesn't. And I don't think you even need, I know there's probably people listening right now thinking, oh, but I don't have that much money to go on a big Disney vacation. That is not the point. The point is not that you go to Disney World. You can do things in your own backyard that will create these amazing memories. We did this thing last year where we bought a whole package of glow sticks from the dollar store, this humongous, I don't know how many we had, hundreds. But that's really cheap at the dollar store. Yeah. And we laid them all out on a beach for it was like a glow stick farm. I don't know what you call it, but it was the middle of the night. It was midnight. We put all the glow sticks out, sticking up out of the sand, and we woke the kids up and we took them out there. And I will always have that memory of us sitting in chairs, looking up at the stars with all the glow sticks all over the beach. That probably cost all of, I don't know, $5. And you don't need money to make these amazing memories.
Right. So Absolutely. And we've learned that, especially through so many, doing a lot of car road trips. So
yeah,
you can go anywhere. You can go anywhere for a day or do anything. And to your point, which is so important.
Yeah.
I think one thing that you talked about that I think most people can relate to is being on the receiving end of some unsolicited advice. And in the book, you have this great anecdote about this woman coming up to you in a Starbucks parking lot who basically informs you that the book, I think it was Holden was reading, could basically double as a deadly weapon. And while you were driving the car.
Right. Turn into a projectile object in the car.
Yes. And take him out. And it's one thing, and you have this great way of just smiling and dealing with it. I'll let everybody, when they read the book, kind of see that moment. But it's one thing to deal with a stranger, right? I'm wondering, how do you handle unsolicited advice of those closer to you, right? Those maybe a relative, maybe a mother-in-law, in my instance. How do you handle that?
Yeah, parents are always getting advice from people, and it's usually not asked for. But I feel there's two things. One, if everyone is giving you the same advice, listen, they probably know what's going on. And even if you're feeling differently, if everyone else is saying something, it's probably the right thing to listen to. However, if you're getting advice from someone and you don't really want it, I do, my husband taught me this. Just nod, smile, and say, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. And it works. They kind of just stop talking after a little while and they think that they've gotten through to you. And but while you're saying that, listen, because even sometimes the delivery is not so good, but sometimes what they're saying actually is good advice. And you're standing there and you're so annoyed and pissed off that they're giving you all this advice, when really maybe what they're saying actually has some goodness behind it. So it can't hurt to listen you can roll your eyes as soon as you turn away, roll your eyes by all means. Like, but while you're standing there listening to them, just like nod your head and say thank you. I mean, I like, people who follow my blog probably see it all the time. Like, somebody comments and they say something that is just like not said in the nicest way, or just, you know, sometimes type just doesn't convey like emotions. I usually just say thanks.
Right.
That's awesome. Like, because they don't know that really what I'm saying is thanks.
So kill them with kindness is what
kill
you're
them with the same thing I teach my kids all the time. Like, just kill them with kindness. And then when you turn away from them, you are welcome to roll your eyes. You're welcome to like curse them off in your head, like do whatever you want, but just put on a happy face. It works.
I'm gonna have to try that. It can be difficult at times, but I think you're right. Yeah. Right, you're right. It's getting it's being open to receiving, and I think to receiving sort of the suggestion and understanding that there's a different way that could that there's a different way that it could be done, right? And I think that as moms, that is a challenge because we want so desperately to be choosing the right path for our kids. We want to believe that we've made the best choice possible, but if there's a reminder that there's another way to do it, then we start questioning ourselves. So it's being open, but also having kind of faith that we've made the best decision with the information at hand for our kids, right?
Absolutely, Leslie. I mean, like if you're getting like advice, like different advice from different people, I think I said this in the book. If you're, you know, your mom's telling you one thing, your mother-in-law is telling you something else, the experts are saying something else, like listen to the advice, you know, smile and say thank you. But no one on this planet knows your child as well as you do. No one knows them as well as you do. So you may take whichever piece of advice you want. You may say, you guys are all wrong. I know, because I know this child. And it is, as a parent, you have that gut feeling about your child. No one else knows it as well as you do.
Right.
So,
well, it's sort of in the same vein. There's this chapter, and it's one of my favorite parts of the book, complete with pictures. There's a chapter where you tell the story about how your elf on the shelf came to its very, very fiery end after you accidentally left him in the oven. And I feel like the elf on the shelf game, and I mean, I'm sure you see it on social media, Karen, like the elf on the shelf game right now among parents is like, it is high intensity. It's a high intensity sport. And I feel like I see on Instagram all these elaborate setups that parents are doing for their kids. And, you know, there's elf villages and clothes. And I think the amount of time and effort and money spent on that, right? When my elf like maybe gets moved, or it's like pooping some like Christmas colored M&Ms.
Right.
And then it feels really lame. And I compare myself. And I'm on social media. I do the things, and I find myself comparing to other moms and wondering, ooh, am I mailing it in? So how do we keep ourselves from competing and comparing with other mothers kind of on this journey?
Yeah. I mean, you know, as much as my career has been based on social media, I have a major problem with social media, and that is that almost everybody puts their best face up on social media. So if they are doing Elf on a Shelf and they are going to town on it and doing like the best job ever, that is what they're going to show on social media. If they are the best needle pointer in the world, that is what they're going to show on social media. So when you look at social media, you have to always remember that, like, most people aren't showing that, you know, like I'll run downstairs because I forgot to move the Elf on the Shelf, and I'll throw them in a dirty coffee cup in the sink. And then I'm like, oh crap, now I can't even wash the dishes all day. I mean, yay, I can't wash the dishes, but like, oh crap, I can't even wash the dishes all day now. Like, no one puts that on social media. They put the elaborate Christmas scene that they did with their Elf on a Shelf. So you have to remember that, like, you're seeing the best of people on social media. And while you have, that might not be your best, you have something else that you're the best at. Maybe that's your job. Like maybe that's what you walk out of the house and do every day. And you're probably not going to put that on social media. That's okay. Maybe that's the pancakes that you made your kid this morning. Maybe that is just your fashion is like awesome. Like we all have strengths, and the people that have strengths that are visible, they'll put it up on social media. We all have weaknesses too. So don't feel bad when you see that. I will also say that's like my first thing. So watch social media with a filter, knowing that it's all kind of like just the best side of everyone. The other thing I will say is all of us could take it upon ourselves to post some of that bad stuff sometimes. And that was what that post about the elf on the shelf did. It was like, I mean, it happened to be a hilarious story.
So good.
But yeah, it was insane. But I will, and like, but you know, I put it up on social media thinking people are gonna like maybe think less of me, because like that was a stupid mistake. Like I put something like polyester in the oven, and then like I stupidly forgot that it was in there, and I stupidly preheated the oven, and then like 3 adults sat there stupidly watching this like elf burn and like, help me. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna put this up on social media and see how it does. That obviously did really great. But by showing people my huge mistake and showing them like that I'm not like great at making elf on a shelf things, I made people laugh. I made them feel better. I made them feel like it resonated with so many parents who always, you know, at the last minute throw their elf on a shelf somewhere. Like 95% of us are doing that. So like show your bad side on social media once in a while. It will do it. It's a favor to everyone else. And it makes people understand that you're authentic, like you're a real person.
Right.
So.
Right. I've taken some of that and because I see you've talked about that before in your social media, and I've definitely tried to employ it in my own, because like you, social media is so much a part of my work, but usually I do it at the expense of my husband. I allow him sort of to take the fall on social media for me. But I'm still doing and still putting out the reel, but just sort of at his expense.
That's okay. We all do that. There's plenty to make fun of.
One thing you revisit a few times throughout the book is teaching our children to kind of stand up to bullies. And we talked a little bit about this earlier. Yeah. And I feel like as a parent, it's often one of our, I like, so you're taking your drink during this.
I'm like, here's my margarita.
Right? I feel like as a parent, it's often one of our greatest sort of concerns as our kids sort of begin school. And I know for me, it's like if my daughter comes home and she's just 6 and kids didn't want to play, or someone said something mean, like I want to march down to the school. I want to get like the biggest hat I can find and like march down to the school and go into an office and start yelling. But you spend a lot of time with your kids, not like you said, not worrying about the bully, worrying about them and teaching them to be empathetic and reminding them that, you know, the saying, hurt people, and that there's something going on with that child or that person who's being unkind to you. And we need to, you know, feel bad for them because they're hurting inside. And that was a real aha moment for me as a parent. And I guess my question is, when do we allow our kids to fight their own battles, gain that self-confidence that we talked about earlier, but when do we as parents get involved?
I mean, first and foremost, one of the best lessons you can teach your children is to kill people with kindness. Bullies, kids that have, you know, issues, behavioral issues, just kill them with kindness. Because I mean, like I turned on the news tonight and a 6th grade girl had shot people in her school, and it was horrendous to see that. Like, I mean, it brings tears to my eyes. It's like, I can't even imagine a 6th grader doing that. But imagine if everyone in that school had given her smiles like all week. Like, I don't know for sure that she wouldn't have done it, but maybe that's the way to get through to these kids, like that are hurting and having problems. If most of the world is nice to them and killing them with kindness, like maybe it'll make things better. In terms of when you step in, I try not to step in unless my kid is getting hurt. like physically hurt. Like if someone punches my kid, you better bet that I'm calling the school to talk to them about it, or the camp, or wherever it happened. I'm having a conversation with a grown-up about it. I'm never approaching the child. And I usually don't approach their parents either, simply because their parents probably know there's a lot of issues there, and they've been trying to deal with it for a long time, is my guess. So either they're caring and they're trying and it's not working, or they're not caring and they're not going to care when you come to their door either. So I think you're better off dealing with a different grown-up. Most situations, unless my kids are being physically harmed, I usually let them try and deal with it. I usually try and give them approaches that might help. And it's changed over the years. Like when Zoe was younger in elementary school, I was like, kill that bully with kindness. You give them a big smile at recess. Now that she's in junior high, I'm a little bit like, maybe don't talk to them as much. Like maybe like throw them a smile, but like maybe you don't have to be their friend all the time. So it changed. Like everything's like changes as they're getting a little bit older. And I wrote this book when Zoe was 9 and 10, I think. So now that she's 11 and 12, like things are just morphing a little bit.
Right.
So yeah, I hope that answers. Like there's no one answer to anything. Like that is, if there's anything you get out of this book, it's like, there is not an answer. Like parenting, there is no guidebook. There is no right answer. Like every single child is different. Every single parent is different. And we're just doing the best job we can. So.
Well, I want one more question before I know that Carrie wants to jump in, so we can, so you, the guests here can ask you some questions. But one of my favorite sections in the book, and it was such a breath of fresh air, was when you encourage parents to have fun. And you have this incredible list of like silly, outrageous, these like laugh out loud things that like you can do as a family together just to have fun. Tell us about this, where it came from and why it's so important to you.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's really easy to forget to have fun. Like you're like racing to get your kids to school, and you're racing to pick them up, and then you're racing to some activity, and like, and you remember you're yelling at them in the meantime too. Yep. So like you're being strict, you're dealing with the bullies, you're like, there's all these serious things thrown at you constantly. And like, it's easy. And I know like vacations, like you were like, vacations is the time that we're all sitting in the bed and like we sit back and watch a movie. Like we have to make sure that it is not only happening during vacations, because like what if vacations happen like once, maybe twice a year? Like we have to bring fun to our children's lives all the time. And we have to bring fun to our own lives all the time. Like that is something I can turn into like a raging bitch a lot. And I have to remember like, it's fun. Like this is life. Like let's try and enjoy it a little bit. So if that means like giving my kids an ice cream sundae in the bathtub because like, oh, we're running out of time tonight. Like, great. We're going to combine bath time with dessert time and like make it super fun. That means like when we go to a swimming pool, like I don't care if I blow dried my hair that morning. It just doesn't matter. Like that's not what's important. What is important is that my kid sees that I can have a good time with them and that I have a good time with them. It's like jumping into the pool and like getting my hair messed up. Oh, well. These are just like, you got to show your kids that you can have fun, and you got to make sure that they're having fun along the way. Like that's what keeps the smiles on their faces. That's what keeps you bonded. Like these moments, like the other day, Zoe was feeling kind of low. She's a tween. Like the hormones are like, wow. So we went out shopping and we just had like a fun time. We got rolled ice cream. We like just popped into stores that we've never been to before. We just had a fun time. And it was therapy. It was like free therapy. I mean, I paid for a pair of shorts. So, but other than that, and the ice cream, like it was like really cheap therapy. So yeah, fun is super important. That's why I'm having a margarita.
Yeah, that's fun too.
That is fun. Different kinds of fun. Well, I'm back. Hi, everybody. We have a couple of questions from the audience. If that's okay to get going now.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
So this is from Irene, and she asks, I love the artwork on the wall behind you. Is it the preschool wing of the Art Institute or the Museum of Mama Art?
It's not for sale. Sorry, Irene. This is, and I can pick up my computer and show you guys. This is my wall to show, you know, like all the kids' artwork off. I probably should update it because they're older now and they've done some more impressive stuff. But yeah, I mean, like, it's just a gallery wall showing off their artwork. I think it's so important to hang your kids' artwork in your house. I also think it's really important to throw a lot of it away. And I know people are laughing right now, but I mean, like, I would have stacks up to my ceiling. I would look like a hoarder if I kept all the artwork my kids brought home. But I have a pretty big collection of artwork that I love of theirs. And it's like, and I had to cull it down to like my favorite, I don't know, 20 pieces. And I put them into frames behind me, and it was super cheap. And I put construction paper as all that's like lining them. So it was like a dirt cheap way to like decorate a big wall. and to show my kids I'm proud of them. So.
Exactly. And then you don't feel as guilty throwing away the rest of the art, I feel like, because you're like, no, see, I love you and I champion your art, but you know, you can't keep every single piece. I know, even though, I feel guilty too. I hide it in the bottom of the garbage can.
All the time.
This question I think would be great for both of you, for Karen and Leslie. So Rachel asked this, and I think this is so relevant to all of us who are parenting right now. And that is, has the pandemic changed your parenting philosophies at all?
Oh, you want to go first, Leslie?
Sure. I feel like for me, I don't necessarily know that it's changed my parenting philosophy. I do know that it has taught me a lot about parenting, and I've had no excuse not to become a more patient parent, a more sort of a calmer parent, because there was for so long, I'm in California and we were sheltering at home quite a bit and for very long periods of time. There was no place to escape to kind of, you know, those releases that as a parent you need to have sometimes. You need to have your girls' night out, or you need to just be able to go, you know, for a long drive by yourself, go watch a movie. None of those things were available to me. So I think it taught me to be more patient. And now as we're reemerging, it's something that I can definitely employ. And I know that when I am a calmer, more patient parent with my children, and I see this now, their response, I can see the release in their shoulders and their relief, and they just respond better to that, you know. So it's been a holdover that I am grateful for.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that, being more patient. As I go through days that I'm really impatient because we were locked up together, but it's taught me that, like, when you get really impatient like that, everything kind of goes like down the toilet, and it's bad. I feel like for me, I go through life, you know, like we're running from place to place to place, and this has really taught us how to slow down and find ways to fill the hours together that are more fun. I also feel like I feel bad for my kids right now. This is not the way that it's supposed to be, and I'm like a little bit nicer to them for that reason. Like, I'm a little kinder, and they feel it, because it's just important. I just feel bad for them. Like, this is not the way kids are supposed to be growing up. So that's something I've learned, how to be kinder to them and less strict, and just, you know, if it's an extra cookie, if it's an extra movie, if it's, you know, more screen time, sometimes it's, you know, without ruining their brains. Yeah. I mean,
so much screen time. I've found that it's helpful to I just lowered all my standards. I mean, every piece of furniture in this house is broken at this point. Every dish is chipped because we're using them all day, every day, you know? So you just got to let go of that stuff. And then I felt like you said, like, what's an extra cookie or an extra movie at this point? And I feel bad for him too. I know it really stinks.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're almost through it.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great one from Megan. She says, how do you deal with that I just suck all the time feeling? I think we can all relate to this. Do you open dialogue with the kids on this topic?
like as a mom that feels like she sucks all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, we all feel like that, Megan. Like, I feel like, I mean, at least for me, maybe not all women are like this, but a lot of women are like this. We dwell on the flaws and the mistakes and the bad things that we do, as opposed to celebrating like the good things that we do. And we tend to like not remember how many good things that we did. I know that I'll have a day that I yelled at the kids. I lost it on them. Like I wasn't nice. I didn't, Holden wanted to play a game and I didn't say yes because I just couldn't bring myself to play another game of Chutes and Ladders. And that's the things that I remember at the end of the day. But when I'm putting him to bed at night, he's like, "You're the best mom on earth." And he gives me a huge hug. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, honestly, like that's what he took from this day that I was like beating myself up about because I thought I did a terrible job. And I don't know why Mother Nature made it this way, but we're really lucky that she did, because our kids really do remember the love and the good things at the end of the day. So like, don't beat yourself up. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. And you have a marathon that's going on for like, I say 18 years, but I say even more than 18 years because kids they're still your children after they leave the house. So this is a marathon and it's a big picture thing. So one moment you screw up, not a big deal. You have 9 bazillion moments. So if you screw up every few of them, that's okay. Like you're just trying to get to the end, and it's a big picture thing in the end. And at the end of the day, at the end of the 18 years, at the end of the however many years, your kid is going to remember the good stuff the same way they do at the end of like at a good night's sleep. So I hope that helps. I'm losing my AirPods, so I'm going to switch you guys to the hardwired stuff.
All right. We'll give you a second to get adjusted.
Okay. Sure.
While we're waiting, I will tell you a fun little piece of advice that we got from Irene. It made me giggle. She says that her parenting philosophy is that it's a benevolent despotism, which I always murder that word, despotism. You do what I say and I let you live. Roll your eyes at that one. I thought that was really cute.
Sorry, I'm back.
Okay, you're back. Welcome back.
Thanks.
I had a couple questions about how, and this is for both of you as well, like writing, being a writer, I would imagine you probably work from home a lot. You were probably, maybe even before COVID. How has COVID changed your writing routine, or has it affected, or how have you found time basically to write with so much around you all the time?
I know, well, so my kids are a bit younger. My daughter is 6 and my son is 2. So that has been a real challenge, Carrie, and we are still working on that. But what I've had to do is, which is just the world's most horrible thing, is I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning, and it's awful.
That does sound awful.
So awful. And I wake up at 5 a.m. and my husband is good enough to like have the coffee brewing, so it's ready for me. Aww. And I try to get in a good 90 minutes of brainstorming and writing and doing as much as I can then, because I feel like that helps set my trajectory for the day, so that I'm not, if I get an hour here, an hour there, I'm not starting from zero. I have a base from that morning, like a good solid base that I can jump from. So I can't wait till we get back to the point where I can start sleeping until 7 again. I know this is not something I enjoy, but it's effective, and it's where I can find the time.
I love that you really do give yourself that time. You're like, I'm doing this, I'm getting up and I'm doing it, and you stick to it. That's great. How about you, Karen?
I'm amazed that you do that.
It's awful. It's really awful.
I could never. I don't know. I mean, I love, like, writing is like air to me. Like I have to write all the time. I love it. And luckily my kids are a little bit older now. So I'm at a point where I can shut the door and say, leave me alone. They don't always, but I try. And I think in some ways in the beginning of the pandemic, I was able to find the time to write because we were together so much that I didn't feel as guilty shutting that door on them sometimes. I was like, I mean, dude, I just watched like a 2.5-hour movie with you. We played Legos and stuff. Like, I'm shutting myself in my office for a little while now, and you could figure out something to do. So I had that. And then we were extremely lucky to have our kids in school for the whole school year. So, yes,
that's amazing.
It was incredibly lucky. And so I didn't lose that time. And I've been writing constantly.
Oh, that's so fantastic. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, thanks. I know I feel bad saying it because I know, like, I listened to the Daily the other day and they were talking, and they had moms and the pain that they're going through with their kids not being in school, and the children and what they're going through.
Yeah, it's so hard on them.
It's so awful. It's so awful. But yeah, I have to write, or I like would go crazy. I will say that one of the things that really hurts your writing in the pandemic is, like, there was no stimulation. Like, I didn't get to go out and, like, I couldn't go to a museum. I couldn't like go to a concert, or like whatever the things I do, like even just going to Starbucks helps me just to like have random people around me. Like, it helps a lot. And we haven't had any of that. So my Starbucks that I like write in closed, like for good, closed down completely. So
that's awful.
Yeah, it's like a pandemic nightmare. So
yeah, that is a pandemic nightmare.
Yeah. So it's yeah, but I don't know. I'm sure it hurt a lot of writers.
It's been actually really interesting as we do all these events to listen to different writers and like who it's helped motivate, and who it's been nobody has the same answer. So that's why I always love asking it. All right, well, we've just got a few minutes left, so I would like to end with a couple questions for both of you, actually. One is, of course, what have you guys both got coming up next? And then, of course, I always ask, have you read anything great lately? Preferably something that's either just released or might be coming out in the future. I know that you guys get access to a lot of ARCs and stuff, or anything. Just tell me what you've read that you love, that you'd recommend.
You want to go first?
Sure. I just read Karen's book. I actually read it a while ago. I was lucky enough to read it a while ago. And it's delightful, and I think everybody needs to get it. But I just got, it just came and I just started, I'm a couple chapters into the last thing he told me. And I'm very interested in that because it explores a relationship. It's a thriller, but it explores a relationship between a mother and a stepdaughter. And that's a really interesting, and a stepdaughter who's like a teenager. And I think that's a really interesting dynamic to an interesting relationship to explore. Yeah, so that's what I'm reading, and what I'm working on right now. I'm working on a couple things, but I'm just out of treatment for breast cancer, and I am a breast cancer survivor, and I'm very
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank you. So
wow, on top of everything else this year. Dang.
I know 2020 was the gift that keeps on giving. So but I'm through with all of that, and now that chapter closes, that's going to be something that I focus on moving forward, in that sort of that education for younger women.
Awesome. Wow. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Karen?
Yeah, you've achieved a lot more than I have, Leslie, lately. I don't know what's next. I wrote a middle grade fiction book. We'll see. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere or anything, but we'll see. It was really, really, really fun writing it.
Middle grade is so good right now. There's such good stuff coming out. That's
good.
Awesome.
Yeah,
This is so exciting. I want to hear I want to hear about it.
I loved writing it. I enjoyed every minute of it. That's what I did a lot during the pandemic. And then besides that, I don't know. I mean, I'm continuing with the blog. It's getting a little harder to write the blog because as the kids get older, there's a lot of stuff I don't want to write about. I don't think is fair for me to write about. So I'm navigating that and figuring out where I want to go with that. And in terms of what I'm reading, I just read Girl, Wash Your Face. And yes, which I like. Yeah. I feel like, it's funny. If you asked me a year ago, I've written more books in the past 10 years than I've read, which is crazy. Like, I feel like I had kids and there was no time to read. Yeah. Like I just, and I gave it up for so long. And now that my kids are finally getting to be more self-sufficient, I'm like, I can read again. I'm so excited. And I don't get me wrong. I don't not read. I read like the New Yorker religiously. But the New Yorker is easy because it's like
Quick.
small things.
Yeah.
So, and that's the way I write my books too, like small things. Cause I know like moms can't sit down all the time and read like a whole book. Like some of them can, but like a lot of them have struggled to do that. So yeah, that's where I am right now. We'll see where it goes. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I hope it goes somewhere. That's really cool.
Thanks. We'll see.
I have to say, if there are for other moms out there watching this that say the same thing, it's really hard to find time to read once you become a mom. It's true. I have just found like audiobooks like saved my sanity. I mean, you can listen to them while you're doing dishes. I have one child who was very prone to screaming and massive meltdowns. And there were times, I mean, you know, you have to, like, I had to be there for her. She was going through other stuff, but like, there was a reason that the meltdowns were happening and she had other things going on, developmental stuff, but like, I would not hesitate to put those things in, to put those earplugs in and listen to an audiobook. So I highly recommend that. We sell audiobooks actually through Libro.fm in case anybody has been thinking of exploring audiobooks, because they actually help you support your, local independent bookstore, which I just had to put a plug for them in, but any audiobook is great. I know the library has them too. All right, well, that is actually going to do it for us tonight. Thanks everybody out there for attending once again, and thank you for the questions. Thank you so much, Karen and Leslie, for your time. We're just so grateful to you guys for giving your time tonight, and for helping us keep on plugging away. And to everyone out there, I mean, I think there's a light right at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully we're going to get through this time, and just please stay safe, everybody, and good night.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.